So we are recording this webinar for people who are not able to join us today. But I want to thank you all for being on. This morning or afternoon's webinar is Reducing Stigma Through Language. We all know how much language does matter. So I am thrilled that Mikey Lamb from Florida has agreed to share his knowledge and information with us today. Mikey is a spoken word poet who found his passion of advocacy after his diagnosis of HIV at 21. Advocacy is something Mikey believes will finally televise the revolution. Just a few housekeeping. Everyone should be on mute. There is a chat box to the left. If you have any questions, if you would type it into the chat box, I will be monitoring that as Mikey presents the slides, and I can unmute you at the end of the webinar if you wanted to ask a question then as well. So just please utilize the chat box, and we will go from there. So Mikey, I will turn it over to you.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Good early afternoon. I hope everyone is doing great, looking great, and feeling great. Thank you to Tammy for, reaching out to me to do this pre-conference webinar. I'm excited to see all of you at the HIV is Not a Crime Training Academy. And what I want to kind of present to everybody is just, as Tammy said, reducing stigma through language, because indeed language does matter. Not only how we talk to people, but also how people talk to us, especially people living with HIV, whether it is intercommunity or a medical professional, your case manager, or just your homegirl you're sitting back kikiing with. All right? It all starts with language. So here we go. From the beginning. So living with HIV, when you are first diagnosed or trying to figure it out, a lot of people will sorry about that, guys. Whoever orders food from Bite, please dial the podcast 101. Sorry about that. So again, once living and being once diagnosed with HIV, the first thing you're said is, or asked is, "Oh my gosh, when did you become infected?" Or you have a scare, and it's like, "Oh my gosh, I think I could have gotten infected by sleeping with so-and-so, or I heard this," and things of that nature. That is an infection. That is what infected looks like. Just go ahead and tunnel that. Go ahead and, put that in your mind. Protection. Oh, well, let's have safe sex. Or, oh, the reason why you were infected was because you didn't have protected sex. Non-compliant. Oh, you should have taken your medicine. You should have done this, and then you wouldn't have had anything happen to you. You should have been more adherent to your medicines. You should have been more involved in your sexual health, and then this wouldn't have happened to you. Compliant. Zero discordant. Discordant, it kind of leads to a lot of jargon, a lot of yelling back and forth that isn't too positive. So when we think of the word discordant, a lot of people run into this image as far as a discourse that is not too friendly. Are you clean? Clearly that's not. When people ask you, are you clean, that's always something like, ooh, makes you feel real dirty. And that's not how I feel or look, ever. And then this one, it's definitely another one that you get put into your head as far as another way of saying compliance, another way of saying, oh, well, if you don't take your meds, this is the repercussions. Companies have compliance officers. Imagine having a compliance officer when talking about HIV medications. And then this is kind of the thing I'm sure all of our faces do when someone says, oh, so you have full-blown AIDS. It's like, well, when did I have half-blown AIDS? When did I have a quarter-blown AIDS? what is full-blown AIDS? I thought it was just AIDS. Again, have to take that deep breath, rub your temples together, and make sure, you're not doing anything too crazy to clap back at folks when asked that question. Go to the next slide. Hello. What happened?
Mikey, what? Okay, here's the next slide for you. Is this one you didn't want in there?
Hello?
Mikey, we still hear you.
Oh, okay, no, but my computer got kicked off, and it says something's going on.
Oh.
That's why I'm like, wait. Okay, now it's reconnecting, and now it is, okay, no, that was a technical difficulty on my end. Everything's popping up. Okay.
Okay, wonderful.
And now okay, awesome. So basically, again, for language, we don't know where exactly language came from. We just know that people just didn't start talking out of nowhere. People have a lot of theories of the origins of language, and these are some of those theories. Just like a lot of people have theories of where HIV came from, we don't know exactly. We have many, many theories and stories and details behind this virus. So again, we don't know where language came from, but we have a lot of theories of where it could have came. And these are the 5 theories. The bow theory, based upon the notion that speech arose through people intimidating the sounds of environment, especially animal calls. The poo-poo theory, based on the evidence that speech arose through people making instinctive sounds. The ding-dong theory. We also have the yo-he-ho theory, and then also the la-la theory. So again, people kind of picked and choose and kind of restarted and revamped what language was, whether it was making sounds, whether it was imitating animals. Where did it come from? Who absolutely knows? Not a whole lot of folks, but these are the theories that we can go off. Language, a little bit more in depth. The human language can express thoughts on an unlimited number of topics. The weather, the war, the past, the future, mathematics, gossip, fairy tales, how to fix the sink. It can be used not just to convey information, but to solicit information, such as questions, and to give orders. So basically, language is how we express ourselves. Language is how we learn. Some people are, can be audible learners. Me, myself, I'm a visual learner. I like to be more visual, see examples, pie charts, graphs, statistics. In some instances, more tangible. If you have a flyer, if you have a business card, if you have, I could print this PowerPoint out and I could go through and highlight. That's how some folks learn. But again, it's all through language. Like it says here, speakers can build an unlimited number of phrases and sentences out of words, plus a smallish collection of prefixes and suffixes. And the meaning of sentences are built from the meanings of the individual words. What is still more remarkable is that every child learns the whole system from hearing others use it. So this is kind of what ties it all in together. If people hear how you want to be talked to moving forward, they will learn how to better address you, whether it's your HIV diagnosis or just ask you how you've been. Yet again, language, as far back as we have written records of human language, 500 years or so, things look basically the same. So basically going back 5,000 years, going back to those theories, learning how people talk to each other, learning how they communicated and translated messages, this is something that we still don't know where we came from, but we're talking, so clearly it did work. Language changes over time, sometimes due to changes in culture, fashion, sometimes in response to contact with other languages. But the basic architecture and expressive power of language stays the same. As it says, some scholars view language as an initially conjugative development and is externalized to serve communicative purposes occurring later in human evaluation. And then talking to us, and as well as talking to us folks, specifically the Denver Principles in 1983. We all know the Denver Principles was basically kind of like a way to wake folks up, and it's kind of a way to let people know, hey, this is happening to a specific community and it's spreading to other communities. Why isn't anyone doing anything about it to save us? And the Denver Principles in 1983 basically said in its opening statement, we condemn attempts to label us as victims, a term which implies defeat and we are only occasionally patient, a term which implies passivity, helplessness, and dependence upon the care of others. We are people with AIDS. And next slide, please. Okay, again, so the Denver Principle was basically recommendations for people living with HIV, recommendations for all people, and then recommendations for people living with HIV. And just for recommendations for all people, support us in our struggle against those who would fire us from our jobs, evict us from our homes, refuse to touch us, or separate us from our loved ones, our community, or our peers. Since available evidence does not support the view that AIDS can be spread by casual and social contact. Not scapegoat people with AIDS, blame us for the epidemic, or generalize about our lifestyle. Basically, clean, cut, dry, this is what's going on, and this is how we need to be addressed moving forward. And People First language kind of feeds off of that, kind of feeds off of the Denver Principle, saying, hey, this is how we need to be treated. And as it said earlier, as language moves along and gets a little bit better and more improved, and culturally it changes and people learn how to talk better to one another, we need to learn how to talk People First language, because it is all about respect, dignity, and understanding. Words are powerful ways to acknowledge or marginalize someone. People First language describes what the person has, not what the person is. The individual is placed before the diagnosis. And this was an email that was sent to me not too long ago. I believe probably about a week ago. I did a presentation on People First language, and this was emailed to me after the presentation, and it says just like this. I was once told to look at the language we use like fingernails. For example, I am a person with fingernails. I am not fingernails. Likewise, we should say people with a mental illness or individuals experiencing homelessness, not bipolar people or homeless guys. This framework helps me double check my writing and the language I use to always put the person first. So we see gladly it's stuck with folks and letting them know not to put the diagnosis or the situation before the actual person, to give them the respect they deserve. And, there's just a little bit of, letting them know their situation doesn't overpower them as a person. How many of us have said this before? I am HIV positive. Or have you heard he, she, they are HIV positive? Probably plenty of us, right? Probably our own selves have said that. I know myself included was I am HIV positive, or even before diagnosis, like, oh, so-and-so is HIV positive. Oh, so-and-so's got that stuff. Oh, so-and-so's this. So it's definitely happened, and I am one of those folks that has actually said something like that. Again, we put the person before the diagnosis. The way we talk to ourselves is just as important as how we are talked to. We are people living with HIV. I am a man, woman, person living with HIV. Nobody says I'm cancer positive, I'm diabetes positive. So again, this is why we're trying to, figure things out, and why are we always so, stigmatized and always so focusing on the disease or the diagnosis instead of the actual person that we're looking at, because it could be, like myself, I am a gay white man living in America, and people will see that and be like, oh, okay, picture perfect cookie cutter person. But as soon as they find out I have HIV, oh, well, this HIV positive man, Oh, okay, and then we can look at, let's say, a black trans woman living her life in America. Clearly different struggles, different experiences, going up against the same system, but different obstacles to kind of combat that system. So let's say one of my trans sisters gets diagnosed with HIV. Now she becomes, oh, this just another trans woman with HIV. Or no, that's just another HIV positive trans woman. Why are we putting this disease before this person and the rest of their struggles? Next slide. Love a long pause. Love a long pause. Shout outs to Jennifer Lewis. Okay, people first language. Before we are HIV positive, we are people. We are people. We are sons, daughters, children, parents, cousins, aunties. We are revolutionaries. We are people with goals, dreams, and aspirations, and we are legit just people. We are people. Some of us have a little bit more intricate parts to us. Some of us, have a little bit different struggles. Some of us have major different struggles. Doesn't matter the diagnosis or anything else that has come into your life, unplanned or planned. We are people, and we will be respected as such. Infected, the definition for infected, contaminate, of a negative feeling or idea. Yes, an infection took place scientifically, but me and none of you beautiful people tuned into this webinar are, science fair projects. None of you all are anything that needs to be, poked and pricked and looked at as if, oh, we got to handle this person, with not kind of, what am I trying to say, protection, like this gear, this spacesuit-like stuff, because of such an infection has taken place. So when describing yourself, oh, I was infected, yes, you were, but to continue to kind of have that identity behind that word, who would want to feel like that? Who would want to feel like that nasty picture I showed y'all in the very first slide? Nobody wants to feel like that. And I know damn well none of y'all look like that, so continue to slay. You have been scientifically and, certain acts caused an infection to happen, but to identify as infected, no. I remember the first time I sat down with the case manager, she said, so when did you get infected with AIDS? I'm like, oh, lady, well, good morning to you too. So it's definitely something we constantly hear from medical professionals and even other folks living with HIV. Oh, when I found out I got infected, or, oh yeah, I heard I was infected, and it's just like, wait, you're so much more than that. Again, who looks like that? None of you beautiful people, and not myself. So again, offensive language, HIV-infected person. To say someone is infected, this is the first thing that would come to mind. Who would want to feel like that? That looks like it hurts. That looks like, ooh. And I know, again, none of us really look like that picture, so why would we want to feel like that when being addressed or talking about ourselves to another peer? Improved terminology, people living with HIV, diagnosed with HIV, contracted HIV. Those lessen the blow, because true enough, when we hear, oh, I was diagnosed with HIV, it's like, oh, but it doesn't sound so harsh. I was infected with HIV, like, ooh, whoa, wait, what? No way. Oh, all those people are infected with HIV. No, those are people living, thriving, surviving, slaying, yes, even with HIV. Contracted HIV, again, that softens the blow to such a stigmatizing diagnosis, but it's still contracted because it happened. Non-compliant, failure or refusal to comply as with a law, regulation, or term of contract. As we all know, the compliant has been thrown at us when the epidemic was first taking place. Like, no, you have to comply. You have to do this. We want to make sure this is this is going to, go away. And clearly, almost 40 years later, I think 35, 36 years later, we are still combating HIV. We've gotten pretty far in the fight, but it has not eradicated yet. So when I hear the term non-compliant, I think my compliance officer here at my office is going to come banging on my door for a HIPAA violation. And as it said, as with a law or regulation, or term of contract, we all have probably had our own struggles with adherence. We've probably all had struggles with clients or friends and peers that struggle with adherence. I don't remember signing a contract saying, yes, I will take my medicine every single day at the same exact time for the rest of my life. So with this, it's kind of like a negative, like if you're not compliant, this is going to happen to you. We're going to crack down. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. It's like, whoa, now I feel like I'm kind of like scared not to take my medicine because I'll suffer from ramifications of another person. So this is why, again, non-compliant is just like, ooh, offensive language. Again, compliant gives off a feeling of suffering consequences if not following certain guidelines. As I've said before in examples, corporations have compliance officers. How would you like having a compliance officer how would having a compliance officer make you feel when talking about medicine regimens? Ooh, true enough, our doctors can act like that depending on the relationship you have with them. But again, imagine you having someone assigned to you saying, nope, I'm here to make sure you take your meds every single day the exact same time. And if you don't take it, we will reprimand you. That doesn't feel good. So again, improved terminology, adherence or practicing adherence. Adherent is a less offensive term when referring to a client. Adherence is more of a rewarding, praiseworthy, and pat on the back type of feeling. When someone is adherent, they are supporting the path of better self-care and, of course, the longevity of their health. Oh, I've been adherent, and now I've reached an undetectable viral load. Shout-outs to you equals you. What up, y'all? But, no, it's definitely something that feels a little bit better. It's not as harsh. And, oh, I'm adherent. Are you adherent? Are you compliant? Oh, wait, hold on. So when saying adherent or struggling with adherence, it's definitely, again, it softens the blow. And when someone reaches an undetectable viral load or their T cells go up or they're excited about going from a cocktail to a 1 pill a day, that shows that their adherence has improved, and that will improve the longevity of their life as well as making their HIV go to an undetectable viral load. So that's why, again, the language we use about ourselves and especially to other people, it helps. So people living with HIV who are adherent to their HIV medications leads to an undetectable viral load. That sounded pretty snazzy. That sounded okay. Infected people with HIV who are non-compliant to their HIV medications will die. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that. Dirty. Ooh, look at them dirty feet, y'all. Covered or marked with an unclean substance. I don't know about y'all, but I am a frequent Grinder and Jack user, and baby, this is the worst question you could ever ask me, and I always respond, well, I did take a shower today, sis, so what you trying to get into? Are you clean? I'm clean, I'm good. Oh, clean, you be too? Like, really? Like, wow. And even to my sisters out there, like, oh, are you clean? Are you good? It's like, okay, where do we go from this conversation? I can almost guarantee my salary. None of y'all feet look like this. None of y'all look like this at all. So why would we use that as a term of speaking or a question to ask folks? I, again, don't even know how some folks would even be able to answer that question without getting really upset or getting really like, ugh. So when that question is asked, how does that feel? It makes you feel dirty. Like, do I look dirty? Like, where are we going with this? Are you clean? Improve language. Just don't ask that question. And I kind of struggled with this people first language and this term, in fact, because in people who are struggling with addiction, are you clean or have you been clean or how long have you been clean is, within their jargon. It's within their everyday conversation. So me, talking to someone who is in recovery as far as addiction, I was like, where do I go with this? Is it more so the context of the conversation, people's personal struggles, people's personal endeavors that they're going through, or is it all around the spectrum to avoid using clean, are you clean? And that's when it was told to me, no, it's definitely different circumstances, because with people in recovery, that is something rewarding. But with people with HIV, because it's been around for so long and that's just the language we're used to, especially within the MSM community. And like I said, shout out to my sisters and everyone else dating who they date. But I've heard that term way too many times within my own community. And it's just something that all around the board we need to avoid. Are you clean? Oh, you're dirty. Dirty needles, dirty this, dirty blood. It's just avoid. Do not use it. And it's just, again, recommending that we don't use this language, with this word specifically, dirty, because nobody wants to feel dirty. Protection, the act of protecting someone or something. Protection. Again, I showed you guys that slide there, and it had this man with this equipment, this mask on, these gloves on, and all that stuff. Immediately, I refer back to the early days of the epidemic when people would walk in with replicas of spacesuit-like equipment just to serve them breakfast, lunch, or dinner, just to take their vitals, just to let them know what's going on with them. This kind of does teeter like, well, we've been saying it for so long, and it makes sense because you want to be protected from HIV, but this word, protection, protected sex, unprotected sex, you make me feel dangerous. You make me feel like you have to walk in my room whenever it's about to go down with this kind of equipment on. The first slide that I showed you, and then also like gas masks and face covers. It's like, wow, what a way to make me feel. Oh, you had unprotected sex. That's how you got infected. Like, whoa, what are you trying to say? So again, protection, this is the kind of feeling that it feeds off of. Improved terminologies. Condomless sex. To say someone needs to be protected is making people with HIV feel dangerous. Condoms and PrEP are great barriers to stop people acquiring HIV. So condomless sex, meaning there was a lack of a condom involved with the within the sexual intercourse. Simple. Oh, you had unprotected sex? Was your sex protected? Well, last night it was definitely condomless sex, or when practicing condomless sex, there are plenty of risks of contracting HIV and other STDs. But again, that's when we can throw PrEP in there. Oh, but if you're on PrEP, that does, add a barrier. But if you throw on a condom, that adds a greater barrier to acquiring HIV. Oh, if you just go out here having unprotected sex, something's going to happen to you. Oh, well, if you weren't having all that unprotected sex, whoa. So again, it's all about how we have conversations within the intercommunity, and then people surrounding us will understand. It's an uphill battle, but baby, we're going to keep on trucking. Discordant, harsh and jarring because lack of harmony. Who are we to assume two people with different HIV statuses are not in harmony? You see my brothers over here, bottom right? Yes, they are clearly having a discourse and a dialogue that they do not agree on. I don't know if it's because, oh boy, on the right, his hair is thinning with those few strands, but, who knows? They're just definitely not getting along right now. They're not getting along right now, and saying serodiscordant, it's like there's not harmony in that home. There's not a lot of, agreeance. There's not a lot of too much of happiness going on because of the mixed status part in their relationship. So again, improved language, serodifferent or mixed status couples. Different HIV statuses, okay, serodifferent. Or as I just said, mixed status couples. A lot of people within these mixed status couples do prefer that because, yeah, serodiscordant, one, it's too long, it sounds too scientific, but when actually looking at the word and the language involved discordant, again, this is the definition, harsh and jarring because of lack of harmony. And again, that just makes us assume, oh, serodiscordant, I bet their household's crazy, when instead we can use serodifferent, mixed status couples. Just as they found love between all of their other differences, they did the same thing with their HIV status. Mother-to-child transmission definition, per Webster, the most common way that children become infected with HIV. Again, there goes that language right there within the dictionary. The most common way that children become infected with HIV, mother to child. We are already blaming mom for the transmission. I can't tell you how many mothers go through, within their pregnancy, the first trimester, they have all these tests and labs and everything to do. We cannot tell you, and I'm sure you guys have conversations about this too, how many mothers we get diagnosed with HIV from donating blood, going to the lab, or just doing all their other prenatal stuff, and they just had no idea. I can't tell you how many mothers that skipped or, didn't do an HIV test while, in their first trimester. And then 8 months down the line, it's like, oh, wow, I just found out I had HIV. How did this get, misplaced? How did this get overlooked? So again, mother to child, we're already putting the blame on mom, whether she knew her HIV status or did not. Improved terminology, vertical transmission, prenatally diagnosed. Here we are taking the blame off of mom with these terms. Again, how many women have found out their status while in prenatal care? A very good friend of mine, she was prenatally diagnosed, and it's always been kind of a struggle with her as far as language goes, because indeed with her own personal experience as far as anybody else prenatally diagnosed, it's like they didn't do anything but come into this world head first. So again, that's another personal thing that they have to go through. But as far as within the community, mother to child transmission, or even with Webster's look at it, it's this is the most common way children get infected, when instead of we can just say vertical transmission or prenatally diagnosed, again, to take the blame off mom and not stigmatize women who are bearing children. AIDS test. I can't tell you how, man, I'm from the South, shout out to Florida. I can't tell you how many people have said, do you have an AIDS test? Or come into the clinic, I'm here to get an AIDS test. Or I'm trying to see if someone has full-blown AIDS, or I need to see if I have full-blown AIDS. It's like an AIDS test. We don't have an AIDS test here, but we can supply you with an HIV test. So again, this is kind of one of those things where you just have to take in a deep breath, and then you exhale, and then you rub your temples. It's like, okay, moving forward. There's no AIDS test. AIDS, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, a syndrome caused by infection with the human immunodeficiency virus, HIV, with ensuing compromise of the immune system. Syndrome, a group of symptoms that consistently occur together, or a condition characterized by a set of associated symptoms. Full-blown AIDS. How many of us have heard that, oh my gosh, that person has full-blown AIDS. How did they die? Full-blown AIDS. What's going on with them? Full-blown AIDS. Again, I just kind of I kind of, make my face a little funny, scratch my head. It's like full-blown opposed to half-blown, opposed to quarter-blown. Again, this has been said for many, many, many generations. This has been said for countless years and in countless spaces. So trust me, it's definitely something that we're going to have to work towards, because even outside of our community, this does this is said. Improved terminology. There is no medical definition for full-blown AIDS. It is simply AIDS. As simple as its name, AIDS. You do not get AIDS off rip. You have to have HIV in order to acquire AIDS, and just because you have HIV does not mean you have AIDS. So again, AIDS is something that is acquired. AIDS is something, untreated or undiagnosed HIV can lead up to. There's no such thing as full-blown AIDS, quarter-blown, half-blown. It is simply an AIDS diagnosis. Again, cultural competency. We need to teach people how to talk to us and how to treat us and how to treat us. Cultural competency, a set of congruent behaviors, attitudes, and policies that come together in a system, agency, or among professionals that enables effective work in cross-cultural situations. Believe it or not, HIV has its own culture, history, and community. We need to be treated as such, starting by the way we are talked to, about, and when referring to someone with HIV. So as in the beginning of this presentation, we talked about language, and we talked about the history of language. We talked about, terms and offensive terms and improved terminology. It's all embedded and all comes from cultural competency. We have to teach people, hey, I'm living with HIV, and within my community, this is offensive. We are trying to improve our language so it is less stigmatizing. So moving forward, when discussing these things with another person who is living with HIV, this is how we are to be treated. This is how we are to be talked to. At the actual training academy, I will have these handouts of improved language, stigmatizing language, and just kind of basically like a little cheat sheet. So I've been handing these out. I will be handing these out. And again, it's all a part of cultural competency, part of growing together within the fight and making sure that we are treated as people who just so happen to be living with HIV. Again, with language, we are asking people to think before they speak to us. We are taking power back and away from words that stigmatize and make us feel unworthy. We are a community and need to be handled as people. Not all the time are we patients. Not all the time are we clients, because I only see my doctor every 6 months, so I'm only a patient in that sense every 6 months. I'm not everyone's client. I don't see my case manager that often, and true enough, I'm saying but I know in some cases some people have to see their doctors and their case management more often than not. But again, only occasionally are we patients and far from victims, as they said in the Denver Principles. And we are not just our diagnosis solely. We are people. Again, people. That just so happen to be living with HIV. For the future, we hope that moving forward, you will consider using less stigmatizing language in all forms of communication, including print, oral, marketing, and social media. Again, these are recommendations for my brothers and sisters continuously in the fight who are, constantly looked down upon, discriminated against, and treated like they are less than simply because of a diagnosis that came along within their lifetime. No matter how it happened, again, nobody asked for this. So we need to be treated as people. We need to be treated as colleagues, co-workers, mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, cousins. We just have a little bit different health stance than other folks. So again, these are just recommendations. I will not go off on you or cuss you out if you use the wrong language, but I will definitely come at you in a loving way, like, hey, brother, hey, sis, hey, person, I want to make sure, moving forward, you don't make anybody else feel like this, because this is a new movement. This is something that we want to combat and construct. Absolutely. And this was supposed to be with me and my colleagues. Shout out to Valerie Wojciechowicz. That's my boss. That's my manager. She approves all of my hours. And she also has teach me the ropes as far as working HIV. And this was her baby, and I kind of adopted her baby for People First Language. And this is me, Michael. Feel free to call me Mikey or Miss Mikey. Michael Lamb. My pronouns are here. I'm a peer navigator and speaker at Can Community Health based out of Sarasota, Florida. And I hope you guys learned a lot. Any questions, concerns, comments, anything you guys want to discuss, I'm an open book. And I thank you for your attention, your respect, and you listening.
Excuse me. Thank you so much, Mikey. I appreciate it. And fully realize the importance of People First Language. I'm not going to be able to unsee some of those pictures of the infection, but I think it definitely makes the point. Does anyone have any questions, or I can unmute you, and you can ask it. Just, can you come to other cities, Mikey, is what people are asking.
Of course I can. I would love to.
A great presentation.
Yes, we can come We can come to any city we are demanded. We got to get people involved. We got to get people talking with improved language. So yes, we can definitely make sure that this happens. Thank you for the invite, and let's make it official. I'll come see you.
And just to let everyone know, I am unmuting you right now, promoting you to presenter. So if you would please mute your phone so we don't have any background noise or the echo, I would appreciate it. It'll take just a few minutes here to promote everyone. If anyone has any comments or questions. I will say one thing that we did do this year when we accepted abstracts is we asked everyone to use people first language as when they submitted an abstract. As a community, we have to start demanding this from others, ourselves and others as well. So it was something important that we recognized as well. So I think now I have everyone I have promoted to presenter. So if you have any questions, we should be able to hear you. Just unmute your own line.
Hello. Can y'all hear me?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. So this is Alicia Diggs. I am in Greensboro, North Carolina. I am driving, so I do apologize for any noise you may hear. But what I wanted to say is, Mikey, you did an excellent job with your presentation on my job.
Thank you.
As a medical case manager. You're so very welcome. I am currently assisting my colleagues with language change. So just hearing the way that you did it, I didn't get to see the pictures, but I will later with the recording. I had a visual, but you just did an excellent job. It was very thorough, easy to understand, and it also helped me because there were some things that I didn't know in regards to how to word it. Giving an example, prenatal transmission. You know, I was always trying to get a better wording so it's not putting the blame on the mom. So even, you know, with mixed status relationships, it was like, well, how do I say that? You know, so those two right there really helped me because I was familiar with the others. But it just gave me an excitement, and I just wanted to say thank you, and I appreciate how you presented.
Well, thank you so much for that. Child, my head is already big, but it done got a little bit bigger now. But no, thank you for that. And this is something that we all have to learn. This is something that we all have to move forward because I was using that same exact language that was offensive. And I learned real quickly that it didn't make me feel good. So when this information was presented to me, it's like, wow, I was making myself feel that way. That was me doing that to myself because of how I talk to people. So again, I thank you for that, and we're just here to make sure it changes because it does, and change starts with us.
Absolutely.
Great, thank you, Alicia. Naima, I'm not sure what happened to your sound. I hope that you can hear us. Does anyone else have any comments or questions for Mikey? Remember, you are on mute. We don't hear you right now, or hopefully it's because you muted your own phone. Almost everyone has. I was able to put as a presenter, so we should be able to hear you if you unmute your phone.
And Tammy, I think *6 is also a way that they can unmute. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but yeah.
All right, definitely. Thank you. We'll give everyone just a minute, or you can type in the chat box still, but I want to give everyone just one more minute, and then we will thank Mikey so much for sharing this information, this important information with us today. I heard this years ago, and there are times that I still catch myself using stigmatizing language, but being aware of that that I am using stigmatizing language, and it usually stops me, and I do correct myself. But it's something that we've used this language for so long, it's hard to change the wording that we use, but it is so important to do. So hearing nothing, or yes.
I'm sorry. This is Alicia again. So I don't know. This may not work for everybody, but this works for me. You mentioned how we've gotten so used to saying that language that it's hard to change it. But I'm going to tell you what helped me. That I was stigmatizing myself. So if I looked at it that way, that Alicia, you are stigmatizing yourself. You're talking about how people are stigmatizing against you, but you won't change this language because you're quote unquote used to saying this, but you're doing it to yourself. So I like to treat people the way I treat myself, so I just stopped.
Amen.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alicia. Yes, and as somebody wrote in the chat box, self-stigmatization is a big problem. I definitely agree with that, and we have to work hard. And using people first languages is one of the best first steps to stop stigmatizing ourselves and also making sure that we hold others accountable, hold ourselves and others accountable for not stigmatizing ourselves when we talk with one another. So thank you for that, Alicia. Yeah, I'm going to forward to the last. Oh, Mikey, you don't have your contact information on here. Would you want to share that?
Or sorry. Yes, my contact information. You all can email me at mlamb, that is MLAMB, at cancommunityhealth.org. And then you can also reach me on my personal cell phone number at area code 239-834-7962. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and type that into the chat box right now so everyone can copy that and make sure it... Oh, wait, there it is right there. Oh, that's awesome. So I'll go ahead and enter my phone number. Oh, never mind. Come on. Yes, I love it. Okay, cool. So there is my information right there in the chat box. As I said, mlamb@cancommunityhealth.org, area code 239-834-7962 for when you all need to reach out to me. I definitely need to edit that. So whoever shouted, oh, Lionel, what's up, Lionel? Thank you for that. I'll definitely update my slide because I need y'all to hit me up. We got to have the conversation, right?
All right. And I see before we go, Ashley, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, thank you, Tammy. I was just going to say, like, just from a personal experience I had just in the last couple of weeks, when we had an opportunity to have a hearing before a House committee in the state of Missouri, is that a lot of the language that the legislators were using when they were asking us questions or addressing us had a lot of that stigmatizing language in it, and it sounded like I was talking to somebody from 1980s. And it was, but it was also, I know that each of us, as we were talking, we had, several of us had a training similar to this, or had heard it at the last HIV is Not a Crime or something like that. And so, we were intentional about the words that we were using, about ourselves and the group. And it seemed to soften their language as they started to pick up on the cues that we were giving, and started to adjust their language sort of as the conversation went on. So I think that it's really impactful when you do it, and you can, because it starts to change people's minds the way when they start using the same words you're using, and then they start to think differently about it too. So.
Thank you for that, Ashley. Yeah, and people and yes, indubitably. And I've realized in certain spaces, especially medical professionals, especially people who don't fight this fight, they will use this language, and true enough, it's just them not knowing what to say. So that's very good that you said that, Ashley, because a lot of people will kind of pick up on context clues or pick up on the verbiage and the language, and then once they get it and they put it in their head, they sound like a skipped CD player, because some people will say, in fact, oh no, I mean, well, diagnose, and then, oh, she's non-compliant. I mean, no, she's not. So yes, absolutely. So context clues, they definitely do help, especially within a conversation. No shade. How it is when talking to legislators. It's like, oh Lord, yes, definitely. But I'm glad to know that your experience started a little rough, but thankfully they got it. They got the gist of it. Absolutely. And that's all we need to do. We need to, correct people in a loving way and, go from there. So Ashley, thank you for sharing that experience.
Wonderful. Yes. Thank you so much. Anyone else have any last comments? Yes, I will be sharing these slides. I will also, when I send out the link for the recording for anyone who did not join us, and you can share the link with anyone that you feel would also be interested in hearing this webinar on People First Language. So that will be coming out hopefully later today once I get the link and can get that email sent. So I want to thank you so much, Mikey, for sharing this information, this important information with us. I don't think we ever hear it enough, and we have to continually remind ourselves and others so that we do better and stop stigmatizing ourselves as we speak. So thank you all for joining us for this pre-HIV is Not a Crime free training academy.
They okay, well, they want
I'm sorry, did somebody start saying something?
Not too sure.
I think their line is just not unmuted, and they were talking in the background.
Oh.
Okay. So just a reminder that next Wednesday we will also be hosting the What to Expect When You Get INAC webinar. I will be sending out that link as well when I share the slides and the recorded link for this webinar. So thank you so much again, Mikey, for sharing this information with us. Thank you all for participating, and we'll be seeing you in about three and a half weeks in Indianapolis. So thank you all.
Thank you all for having me, and thank you all for your participation, and let's keep on fighting the good fight.
All right. Y'all take care.
Thank you.